Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Ameri, and on behalf of Iranian American community of Arizona, I would love to welcome you and thank you for coming here. At the outset, allow me to express our community heartfelt sympathies to Kayla Mueller, family and friends. They are in our hearts and our prayers. As you know, she was the victim to the most heinous act of terrorism, and everyone must condemn that. It is quite fitting for our conference today to address the source and the root cause of the dangerous phenomena of the fundamentalists who come to power in Iran 36 years ago and have been shedding blood in Middle East, Africa, and now anywhere. And we're going to discuss today how to counter this. We have a distinguished panel of speakers today, and would like to thank all of them for being here. Honorable Mayor Giuliani, the America's mayor. The 14th Chairman of Joint Chief of Staff, General Shelton. Of course, Mrs. Linda Chavez, former White House Division of the Public Affairs, who will moderate today's event. The Honorable Attorney General, Mr. Mike Marksvich. So thank you for coming here, even though you had very difficulties to come due to your fractured bone, but a special effort was made by you. We thank you very much. Congressman Paul Gasser. Representative David Livingston, Majority Leader. And of course, Senator Adam Dritz. And of course, many others that are here that will speak to the audience. We thank you all for your service for this country. Iranian American of the great state of Arizona are proud to contribute to the cultural, professional, and academic diversity of this state. The overwhelming majority of Iranians reject the ruling religious dictatorship and seek freedom and democracy. Again, thank you for being here. And before I pass on the microphone to the moderator today, Ms. Linda Chavez, I'd like to ask the Vice Mayor of Phoenix, Mr. Jim Waring, to please provide your opening remark. Thank you. Good morning. Thanks. We were missing you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, thank you very much and welcome. On behalf of the mayor, the city council, and the citizens of Phoenix, we are thrilled that you're all here for such an important conference. And to call this panel distinguished is probably a large understatement, but I think it speaks for itself that this august body would come together to discuss such a pressing topic today. 120,000 Iranian citizens have been killed as part of the loyal opposition, and that's a tragedy that knows no bounds. think of what a nuclear-armed Iran could do, and think about Kayla Mueller. That shows that we are not immune to such tragedies here in Arizona or in the United States. So we welcome you here. We're grateful that you're here expressing an interest in such an important and pressing topic. And we're just grateful to have your support. And hopefully we can unify to bring about change in Iran. And now I'm going to turn it over to, I believe, Linda Chavez, the moderator. Linda?
Thank you very much. It is very gratifying to be back in the wonderful state of Arizona. And it seems like every time I'm here and speak to the Iranian American community of Arizona, both that community and its friends grow larger. We keep having to get bigger and bigger rooms because, in fact, this movement is growing and because the issue is so terribly important. We're going to be hearing from all of the people on the dais today, as well as from some others. We're going to be getting a message from United States Senator John McCain, and we'll be hearing that in a moment. But I want to open this conference just to put in perspective why it is we're here today. You know, it is impossible to go on the internet or to open a newspaper or to turn on your television without becoming aware of how extremely important the issue that we're here to deal with is. And we have seen in the last few weeks just untold barbarism. You know, the burning alive of a Jordanian pilot kept in a cage and immolated for the entertainment of his captors and in order to try to recruit more fighters to the barbarous cause of the Islamic State. And of course, here in Arizona, the death of Kayla Mueller and the fact that the idea of terrorism, which we like to sometimes think somehow happens someplace else. It happens beyond our shores. As Mayor Giuliani and many others on this panel can assure you, it happens here as well, and it happens to Americans. But when we think about the threats today, I mean, so much attention is now focused on the Islamic State, ISIS, and the threat that it poses in the region. And yet, ISIS is not the biggest problem that the United States faces, even though that threat is very real, and those fighters are taking territory in Iraq and Syria and elsewhere. We've seen the government in Sana'a in Yemen collapse with the help of terrorists there funded by the Iranian regime. And when we think about all of these different separate terrorist groups, whether it's Al-Qaeda or ISIS or the people in Nigeria, whether it's happening in Africa or it's happening in the Middle East, or whether it's happening in the streets of Paris, one thing we have to remember is that for each and every one of those groups that are there causing threats to our security, there is an even larger threat, and that is in the state of Iran, where we have a murderous regime that kills and tortures its own people. For those of you who have not had the chance, I direct you to, at some point before you leave, to take a look at the display. This was a display that was put up in the United States Congress on Human Rights Day to show what the Iranian regime has done to the Iranian people. But it is more than just the Iranian people who are the targets of the mullahs in Tehran. And in fact, the biggest threat that we face is the possibility that that regime is very close to being able to produce nuclear weapons. And we have now going on the six-party talks that are aimed at supposedly putting together an agreement that would halt the nuclear ambitions of the mullahs in Iran, but in fact we've seen virtually no progress. The only progress that has been made since those talks began has been progress that the Iranian regime has had in putting together the building blocks of those nuclear weapons, whether it's the heavy water reactors or the light water reactors or the parts and components that will be used to be able to turn that material, that nuclear material, whether it's enriched uranium or plutonium, into nuclear bombs. That is all going on. It's going on in supposedly civilian projects outside the purview of these talks. And so we're heading towards a deadline, again, another deadline in March, March 24th, when either there will be some formal agreement on movement forward or those talks will come to a halt. And this is something that has to focus all of our attentions, because as awful as those pictures of that poor Jordanian pilot being burned to death by his captors are, imagine if these actors had at their disposal nuclear weapons. Imagine if instead of one person burning in a cage, we saw whole cities going up in flames because our enemies were able to put nuclear weapons into the hands of those who would destroy us. So all of that is to focus our attention today on what we're here to talk about. And we have a very, very distinguished group of people, and I'll be introducing some of the elected officials from Arizona a little bit later in the program. But I do want to invite first to talk to you about his state and the contribution that Arizonans can make in this fight for liberty and this fight to keep us safe from a nuclear-armed Iran.